Greetings. I am Provost Scott Angle, and I'm honored to welcome you to the inauguration of the 13th President of the University of Florida, Dr. Benjamin Eric Sass. We are thrilled to have with us state and local elected leaders, Florida higher education leaders, trustees of the university, UF presidents emeriti, presidents and delegates of universities in Florida and many other states, deans and academic leaders, students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends, and honored guests from near and far. And on behalf of the Gator family, we warmly welcome Melissa, Alex, and Breck Sass, and other family joining us here on the campus today. And as we begin our ceremony, let us pause to remember President Emeritus Chuck Young, who dedicated his life to public higher education and passed last month at the age of 91. Thank you. We celebrate this occasion in the century-old university auditorium consecrated in the National Register of Historic Places. We celebrate this occasion as a milestone for a land-grant institution that traces its origin back 170 years. We celebrate this occasion with the presentation of the symbols of office to affirm our next president, who today officially joins the presidents named in the banners on both sides of the auditorium. This ceremony is a moment for the history books. We hearken that history with our regalia that echoes the dress of the clerics of the 12th and 13th centuries. These clerics were the keepers of the knowledge at the time when universities were taking form. The ceremony is a moment for the future. What a fortunate generation of Gators we are to be afforded this shining opportunity to serve humankind. In fast-growing Florida, a top national university, we look to 2024 and beyond, and we know the world is watching us. The dawn of a new era for our university coincides with a new era for our society. At the University of Florida, we have always known that it's not enough to create knowledge, we also shape future generations. As technological advancements calls us to teach machines to join us in creating knowledge and shaping future generations, I find wisdom in the motto embedded in our university seal, Civium in morius re publica salus. The welfare of the state depends on the morals of its citizens. Technology joined to humanity, joined to the public good. The man to guide us at the dawn of this new era is Benjamin Eric Sass, AKA Ben, or Gator Ben. Ben fosters an approach to progress with a human purpose at its core. He is a historian who is leading us past the false dichotomy of the sciences as a path to pay and prosperity versus the humanities for the soul and for the citizen. He's challenging us to seek new paths, not just in higher education, but also in human fulfillment and societal harmony. As we invest him with the presidency, this ceremony is our occasion, our moment to accept and to celebrate this great challenge. I will now introduce our honored speakers and the members of the platform party. When I call your name, please stand. Please hold your applause until I've introduced everyone. We are honored today to have with us State University System Chancellor Ray Rodriguez, a past state senator and representative, and a leader who has helped make Florida #1 in higher education. University of Florida Board of Trustees Mori Husseini, a champion of the University of Florida, public higher education, and all of Florida, and a business leader who is literally building our state as CEO of a national home building company. President Emeritus Bernie Machen, who served from 2004 to 2014 and spearheaded the preeminence program that underpins the university's rise in stature. President Emeritus Kent Fox, who served from 2015 until January of this year, and who led the university into the ranks of the very best public universities in the nation. President Sass, the star of our show today, President Sass began his tenure February and will deliver his inaugural address to us in just a minute. Jason Kelly, an entrepreneur and visionary in biotechnology, who will provide an introduction for President Sass. Dr. Kelly is President Sass's friend and the co-founder and CEO of Ginkgo Bioworks, a synthetic biology company headquartered in Boston that is the nation's leading horizontal platform for cell programming. Professor Thomasina Lott Adams, a UF alumni and faculty member in the College of Education and nationally recognized leader in the teaching and learning of mathematics. Senior Pastor Gerald Duncan of Prayers by Faith Family Ministries, who has been deeply involved in religious, University of Florida, civic groups, and who will give the invocation. And finally, Pastor Kevin Thorpe, whose ministry at Faith Ministry Baptist Church fosters community engagement to encompass all of Greater Gainesville and who will provide the benediction. Now, I ask everyone to stand as we continue our program with the presentation of the colors by the UF ROTC Color Guard, followed by the singing of the national anthem by music professor Anthony Offerly, accompanied by the brass faculty brass quintet, followed by the invocation by Pastor Duncan.
Let's bow our head for prayer. Greetings. So let us confidently approach the throne of grace in order to receive mercy and discover grace to support us when we are in need. O most noble and all-powerful Creator, how magnificent and excellent you are in all your deeds and throughout the entire globe. We are the products of your labor, so your sovereignty can never be unknown. You are the most important component, attribute, and aspect that we have looked toward, and we hope that you will always make known to us your ways. As we come here today from near and far, representing all societal spheres, may we rejoice and celebrate an historic and momentous occasion of investiture of your chosen servant leader, Dr. Ben Sasse, the 13th president of this preeminent University of Florida. We are invoking not only your divine presence, but your heavenly endorsement. We come today as witnesses, walkers for peace, love, and unity for all that is good, and so that educational sensitivity and success may be obtained for all who may apply to better themselves across this greater imprint and the world. We pray that the strength of this university of students, faculty, and staff become the greater essence to be led by his leadership, and that the footprints become the footsteps of service demonstrated locally, statewide, nationally, and abroad. May your divine wisdom and understanding guide us, our selected giant, to lead this institution by demonstrating your power within him for humility, service, and honor. We also come knowing that there will be many challenges and oppositions that will pursue against this ordained calling as president of this institution of higher learning. But we declare and we decree that your divine presence and provision will overcome any opposition they may stand before the selected university president and his family. And if God be for him, who can be against him? May justice, equality, sympathy, and empathy be the glue that unites all ethnicities and culture as a demonstration of a university united to improve this campus and the greater community as a place of service. And great Creator, may this president and family be protected and surrounded by those who will assist him to carry out the mission and ministry of this historical model university. Amen. Please welcome Chancellor Ray Rodriguez.
You may be seated. On behalf of the State University System of Florida, I am honored to share the high hopes that we have for Dr. Ben Sasse as he is inaugurated as the 13th president of the University of Florida. President Sasse, the last time you were welcomed into a new position, it was in a ceremony in the United States Capitol when you were sworn in as a United States Senator from Nebraska. The Senate has long been recognized as the world's most exclusive club. Well, look around you today. This isn't the United States Capitol, and you're not in the United States Senate, but what you have is even better. You're in the heart of Gator Nation at the best public institution in the entire country. As you all know, U.S. News & World Report has named Florida the top state in the nation for higher education every year since 2017. As a whole and at the institutional level, our system has experienced a remarkable ascent. That's due in part to the commitment by universities led by UF to push forward on every measure of student success. After a steady climb up the U.S. News & World Report's rankings, this year witnessed the University of Florida being recognized by the Wall Street Journal as America's #1 public institution. When it comes to student success, the Board of Governors and the University of Florida are allies and partners. We share in our determination to enhance resources, create valuable experiences for our students, and provide them with the tools that they need to prosper in their careers. Dr. Sass is an excellent choice to lead the University of Florida. He is a true scholar, earning his undergraduate degree from Harvard, a master's degree from St. John's, and his PhD in history from Yale. He has taught at Yale University, the University of Texas, and at Midland University, where he served as president for 5 years and turned around a struggling institution. Dr. Sass also has significant experience in the private sector, where he spent a decade as a management consultant at Boston Consulting Group and as an external advisor to McKinsey & Company. In those roles, he specialized in identifying sectors of the economy that are subject to disruption and recommending adaptations. As I stand here today, I tell you, disruption is coming to the sector of higher education. I predict that President Sass's private sector experience will prove to be a blessing to the University of Florida in meeting this challenge. I congratulate Dr. Sass on his inauguration, and I wish him the best as he works to achieve his vision for the University of Florida and its students. Go Gators! And now, if you will, please welcome the Chair of the Board of Trustees, Chair Maury Hosseini.
Thank you, Chancellor. Before I start my speech, I was told that for the next half hour, I'm in charge. I'm both the president and the chairman. So, if you have any ideas for the next half hour that we can do by decree, like make, Gator Day a national holiday, something like this, please let me know, but be quick. The second thing is, I've been thinking my speech has lots of great stuff about Ben. I need to come up with something to balance it out. I couldn't put it in my speech. He would find out and give me hell over it. So I've been thinking, I'm trying to come up with ideas. I just came with that idea because I saw it with my 2 eyes. I said, if I was his speechwriter, he would be a nightmare to writing a speech for. And I tell you why. He was making changes as we were coming to see you guys, making changes. And I said to myself, he's a nightmare. So with that, good afternoon. On behalf of the University of Florida Board of Trustees, I want to welcome you to this historic occasion. Would all trustees present please stand and be recognized? All my bosses, please. Thank you. And would the Lieutenant Governor, Janet Nunes, please stand and be recognized? Well, we're delighted to be here today and to have you here and be with us. So we're here to celebrate the University of Florida, to recognize the incredible work this university has done, and to commit ourselves to the future of this top-ranked institution under the leadership of our new president, Dr. Ben Sass. The University of Florida has done incredible things. Look around you at this beautiful, grand space. When it opened nearly a century ago, University Auditorium stood alone on a humble dirt road. But the people who built it had a bold vision of what this amazing university would become someday. With hard work and determination, against the critics and the skeptics, this institution has climbed to the new heights. Today, the University of Florida is #1 public university in the nation. If you remember one thing after today, remember this: the best is yet to come. Let me say it again. The best is yet to come. All right. The University of Florida is charting a new and exciting course. We are honored to be the State of Florida flagship and land-grant university. We know that the tremendous investments from our state come with tremendous responsibility. We take that very seriously. The work we do here is going to drive Florida forward. We will continue to be the model for our state university system. Friends, as we set our new course, the University of Florida will be a new model for higher education across the entire nation. We are committed to world-class education that is both elite and practical. We will be one of a kind. We will set the standard for every other university in America, public or private. This is a big goal. I know it. But here at the University of Florida, we do not make small plans. As I have said before, history is written by the audacious. That is why when we needed to select a new president, I told our board that we are going to look outside the box. Lots of universities are limited, complacent, and slow. Not us. Our board was looking for a leader with vision, a leader with intellect, an academic with passion for the power and purpose of education, a leader who was not afraid to innovate, to take risks, and to make bold decisions. We found that, and we stole him from the United States Senate. I'm so glad I don't have anything before the Senate. We know that those who dare to do something new will face challenges. We understand that if this were easy, everyone would have already done it. We are clear-eyed about the hard work to come. But I want to tell you, everybody, from the workers who were here at 4 o'clock in the morning, this morning, and the members of the Board of Trustees who are gathered here today, everybody is united behind this leader and his bold mission. The education that our students receive, the skills they build, and the work they do will benefit our state and change the world. We are building a culture of radical practicality. Higher education faces a moment of change. Too many universities have lost the confidence of employers, parents, and policymakers. Many ask if college is worth it. Too many universities don't have a clear and compelling answer. The University of Florida has an answer. Yes, it's worth it. We change lives. We educate the next generation of leaders, innovators, and explorers. We make this state and a nation a better place. Florida is well positioned to lead. That's why we choose President Sass. We are ready to write this university's next chapter. Ben, we entrust with you the destiny of the flagship university of great state of Florida and the #1 public university in the country. Let's change the world. Thank you. Please welcome Professor Thomasina Lott Adams.
President Sass, the title of my speech is always One More, and this is why. I was born on a chicken farm, Hancock's Place, to very hard-working parents who were raising their 8 children on this farm, I being the youngest of them. We did not have inside plumbing. Our home was heated by a wood-burning stove. In the summer, my parents would raise the windows and put a stick in the window to keep it propped open in the hopes of catching a breeze. In the winter, my father would cover the windows with plastic to keep the heat in and the cold out. The main staples of our diet were what my parents grew and gathered. My father, making traps and fishing. My mother, preserving vegetables that were planted in the summer and spring that we might have food in the winter. We were a family together, but struggling, lacking, always needing something that was beyond our reach. Yet, year after year, for as long as I could remember, an 11th or 12th person would show up at our home. A teenage cousin having trouble getting along, an aged uncle needing someone to care for him, an aunt who lost everything in a house fire, a friend of a friend with nowhere else to go. Each time, my parents would say to us, "Don't worry that we won't have enough. There's always room for one more." Mysteriously, my parents would find one more blanket, one more plate of food, one more space around the stove. They made room for one more each time until I came to understand that whoever crossed the threshold of our home would be welcomed, because always one more was my parents' response. Now that I look back on that time, I know that this also meant that there was one more person adding love, joy, hope to our family. One more person to help build a fence. One more person to help milk a cow. One more person to rock a baby. I am convinced that if my parents were alive today, they would consider our home to be the welcoming place for one more. President Sass, like the threshold of my childhood home, UF welcomes you as one more to enter the doors of a great institution and make it better. We welcome you to enter doors that students walk through every day. As a student, I too walked through these doors. Doors at the Rights Union, the O'Connell Center, the Rec Center. Doors at Lake Warburg, Turlington. Doors at Beatty Towers, the Florida Gym, Library West, and Broward Dining, where students are studying, debating, and advancing their knowledge across hundreds of fields, all 60,000 students. We welcome you to doors that staff walk through every day. Doors at Kreiser Hall, Grinter Hall, Tigert Hall, Van Fleet Hall, Walker Hall, and UF Health, where these colleagues are investing time and talent to ensure UF's inner workings and outward-facing arms reach everyone they serve, all 20,000 staff. We welcome you to doors that faculty walk through every day, doors at Weimer Hall, doors at the College of Education at Norman Hall, the East Campus, and at IFAS Extension offices, where we are cultivating new ideas, processes, and products to further the intellect of students and prepare them to be change agents for the world, all 6,000 of us. However, UF is much more than bricks and mortar. We are a collective working to welcome one more to a greater purpose, one more student learning, one more community member growing, one more to explore advancements in AI, science, law, and the arts, to seize opportunities for social and personal growth, to care for our natural resources, one more to design platforms that expand lifelong learning, to engineer products and systems that advance healthcare. We invite one more student, one more teacher, one more farmer, one more scientist, and yes, one more president, to ask harder questions, to think more profoundly, to imagine more fiercely. These are the things about UF that gave me pride as a student. And these are the things about UF that fuel my pride as a faculty member. President Sass, on behalf of the UF students, staff, faculty, and alumni, I say to you like my parents would say to those who crossed our threshold, welcome. We will share with you who we are, and we will grow from what you bring us. We will share with you who we desire to become, and we will celebrate becoming together. We will face hardships together. We will enjoy good times together. We will grace you with a spirit of excellence that will carry us far. We welcome your leadership in helping us to invite one more, 10 more, 1,000 more, 1,000,000 more, until the Gator Nation blankets the world. President Sass, welcome to our home, your home, the University of Florida. Thank you. We will now hear from UF's Mundo Flamenco Ensemble, followed by remarks by Jason Kelly.
Well, after that speech and performance, I feel like I'm going to have to join Gator Nation now. Hey. So I'm Jason. I first met Dr. Sass when I was giving a briefing to the Senate Intelligence Committee about an emerging field called synthetic biology. And the magic of biology is that inside of every cell is digital code in the form of DNA. Right? It's A, T, C's, and G's, not zeros and ones like in a computer. But you can write this DNA code, install it in the inside the genome of a cell, and much like installing a new app on your phone, the cell will do something new. Half of your new medicines are made this way, as well as many important agricultural and industrial products. The company I co-founded after my PhD in 2008, Ginkgo Bioworks, is today the world's largest designer of synthetic DNA. And we went public just 2 years ago on the New York Stock Exchange as the largest US biotech IPO to date. So the Senate Intel Committee had me in basically to talk about how to get more companies like Ginkgo started in the US, as well as how to make sure this technology isn't misused by our adversaries. Now, there are a lot of smart people in that room in the Senate, but it was Dr. Sass who really stood out. He followed up personally with questions to really understand the technology himself. And the secret is most senators are outsourcing all of that to their staff, okay? But not Ben. He pushed to understand how this technology would matter to the United States and got quickly to what the government should be doing to ensure that the US leads and that the technology grows globally embedded with US values. And that curiosity, coupled to a strong sense of mission, is why I'm so excited to see what Ben will bring to the role of president of the University of Florida. Now, don't let my MIT robes fool you. I grew up not too far down the road in Jupiter, Florida, and I know well what a unique institution the University of Florida is in the state and in the country as a whole. The residents of Florida, and thus many of the students of this university, are risk takers. They're raised in a state that isn't afraid of growth, that isn't afraid of doing big things. Ben is going to feel right at home as a new Floridian. Every time I've talked to him, he is focused on doing something audacious. And in particular, he wants to see our public sector institutions be better, faster, and more impactful than the private sector. And I think we've forgotten this a bit in the United States. But the public sector, not the private sector, leading in technology is not a new thing in this country. At MIT, I worked at the site of a building that was called the RAD Lab, the MIT RAD Lab. And it was launched in the fall of 1940 to develop radar for World War II. This lab went from 0 to 3,500 scientists and engineers over a 5-year period. It invented hundreds of different radar systems, credited with stopping the V-1 missile threat over London and turning the tide on U-boat attacks on Allied ships. A university leading. In the early 1970s, universities and the US government led in the launch of ARPANET. This is the groundwork for the internet that we all have today. Do you know who the first 4 nodes were on the ARPANET? Were they at IBM, the greatest technology company of its era, the Google of its time? No, they were at UCLA, Stanford Research Institute, UC Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah. Our public sector universities led the way in doing audacious things. The University of Florida is well positioned to play such a leadership role today, just as emerging technologies such as synthetic biology are becoming more important than ever to the United States. If the US is to have a century as great as the last one, we must remember how public sector universities and the United States government delivered on audacious dreams. I couldn't think of a better person than Dr. Sass to help us remember that history. He is a historian, after all, and to lead the University of Florida in shaping the future for our country. Congratulations, President Sass. I'd like to welcome once again Chair Hussaini.
First, I would like to express my thanks and appreciation to all the faculty and students from the School of Music who are providing the beautiful music for today's ceremony. Wasn't that great? Would everyone join me in a big Gator round of applause for our exceptional student and faculty musician one more time? By the way, I did get a lot of ideas in my 30 minutes in charge, but I can't look at my phone, so sorry. But at this time, I call upon Dr. Benjamin Eric Sass to come forward. President Emeritus Fox, could you please rise and come forward to assist with the installation and presentation of the presidential regalia and chain of office. President Emeritus Machen, could you please rise and come forward to assist with the installation and presentation of the presidential regalia and the chain of office. As I have said many times, Dr. Ben Sass is uniquely and distinctly qualified to lead our amazing university to the next level. 2 terms as a United States Senator, author of 2 New York Times national bestseller book, a faculty member at Yale University and the University of Texas, president of Midland University, a doctorate in history from Yale, a deep love for lifelong learning, and a driven, zero-sharp intellect who can still poke fun at himself. He called himself a data nerd. I think lots of other people call him the same thing. And let me tell you, he is not wrong about that. I told the Board of Trustees that we would find a leader who loves higher education and thinks outside the box. We will be bold. Is it any wonder why he was the unanimous choice of Presidential Search Committee? Thanks, Rahul Patel. I can answer that without any hesitation whatsoever. Ben Sass is exactly right person for the job. I now ask President Emeritus Fox and President Emeritus Machen to enrobe President Sass in the presidential regalia, symbolizing the authority and responsibility of the office. After that, I will place the chain of office upon him, signifying his investiture as UF's 13th president. Oh, really, Ben? Really now? Really? Okay, all right. On count of 3, go Gators. 1, 2, 3, go Gators! Ben, I'll wait until they're finished. And close that. You go.
We need to win this week.
Okay. The guy needs help. Okay, I'm glad you took 2 to help you out. On behalf of the University of Florida Board of Trustees, it is my honor and privilege to officially invest you as the 13th president of the University of Florida by placing the symbolic chain of office upon you. Congratulations and welcome to the Gator Center.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I don't get nervous easily, but during that musical interlude, you all were looking at the platform party, and the music was happening right behind us. And Melissa and I have 3 kids. Our oldest daughter wasn't able to come from Boston today. Our youngest son's face was deep in a book. And as I looked out at the crowd, I saw my middle daughter, and she was just doing this. And I think it meant, Dad, don't try to find the beat. So I had a moment of nerves. Anyway, thank you all for being here. What an incredibly special day, and what a wonderful and humbling time to have all of you show up to celebrate this special place, to celebrate the University of Florida and the work that we have been, are doing, and will do together. There are so many incredible people who made the journey to come here, and I want to thank you all. Many of you have already been named, so I'll do the lightning round. But first, I want to begin with our chairman, Maury, and just in public acknowledge his zeal and his relentless drive. The man is a force of nature. Nobody, probably in the 170-year history of this place, has ever advocated as tirelessly for the University of Florida, excuse me, as Chairman Maury Husseini. I am up very early, but I go to bed relatively early as well, and there is never a night where Maury isn't up later than I am or up earlier than I am for his avocation to advocate for the University of Florida. So, Chairman, it is a pleasure. I would like to acknowledge the rest of our trustees who've been able to make the journey today. It is no secret that around the country, lots of folks join boards like their social clubs or resume patters. And it's also no secret that that is not the way the University of Florida's board works. The folks that are on this board are servant leaders, and they work tirelessly following our chairman in trying to figure out how to make a difference on behalf of our students, on behalf of our faculty, on behalf of our staff, on behalf of our ag partners, on behalf of our citizens, on behalf of this entire state. And so I want to acknowledge those in attendance today: Olivia, Dan, Danae, Raul, Marcia, Fred, and Anita. Thank you very much for the opportunity to partner with all of you. I'd like to acknowledge some members of the Board of Governors. You've already heard from Chancellor Rodriguez. I'd also like to acknowledge Tim, Charlie, and Amanda. Thank you all for being here. There are too many faculty members to name, but as Professor Adams said, there are 6,000 we have on the SACS list that we submit every year who taught a course of instruction at the University of Florida last year. We have 6,000 faculty members. You are the foundation of the university, and it is a privilege and a pleasure to be on a team with all of you. I would also like to thank the staff that make this university go, like the Gators who greet you at the swamp before the games, the folks who feed our students in the dining halls, the early morning custodial crew in Tigert who've adopted me as a part of the late third shift every morning pre-dawn. Shout out to Daisy and Sandra. Glad that you're both here. We want to thank our students who are here today. We do this work because of you, period. And a hearty welcome to all of those of you who labor in Tallahassee. Lieutenant Governor, it's a pleasure to have you here. State senators and representatives. Some of you are regulars in the swamp every home game. Some of you are showing up today, and so we'd like to acknowledge you and thank you. You represent the citizens of the state who pay our bills, and you've been incredibly generous, not just in your investment and in your time, but also in your wisdom. So I would, in particular, want to say Jennifer, Chuck, Yvonne, Stan, and Keith, thank you all for being here and for the counsel you've given me over the last 7.5 months. Commissioner Wilton Simpson is here as well, and we have Justices Canaday and Sasso from the state Supreme Court. We welcome you. We also want to welcome some of our SUS presidents, Moez, Larry, and Rick. It's good to see all of you and not have it be on a Monday night Zoom where the chancellor says we'll be off in 45 minutes and it never happens, sir. I also obviously want to thank those members of my family who weren't ridiculing me during the musical performance. Hi, Mom. Professor Adams, so much of your story sounded a lot like my mom's. My mom grew up in rural Nebraska, about 14 miles from where our house is now, and had no running water, and the story of how her family functioned sounded a lot like yours. Melissa. So I will confess to this group at the outset that being at the center of attention makes my stoic German, Lutheran, Midwestern soul super uncomfortable. I am very uneasy. Pomp and circumstance are not a big part of life in rural Dodge County, Nebraska. And Melissa must have sensed this last Saturday morning in Jacksonville before the big game. And by the way, what a great first drive. Can we all agree on that? Last Saturday morning in Jacksonville, I was working a little bit on this event and obviously not enjoying myself as much as I enjoy myself in most parts of my calling here with you, at which point Melissa looked over at me and in her very delicate way said, "Yo, doofus, it's not about you. Quit apologizing for inauguration." So that was obviously true. She is right. Today is not about me. It's far more interesting than that. Today is about the University of Florida's last decade and our coming decade together. It's about Gator Nation's unbelievable accomplishments of late, and it's about where we're headed next. It's about this state's incredible opportunity, the unbelievable things that this community of students, faculty, and citizens has been doing and will continue to do over the course of the years to come. That's the purpose of today. Today is a celebration, it's a renewal ceremony about our great and noble calling as a university together. But Melissa wasn't done yet, because then she also asked me, so what's she gonna talk about? Principles or program, values or vision? I began to protest. This is a false choice, it's an excluded middle. She was having none of it. And she replied very quickly, "These people don't have all day. There are refreshments for them afterwards. You get 20 minutes, 22 tops." It seemed a little harsh to me, wrong even, because I'm not yet out of the puppy love phase about this place, about Gainesville, about the pine and palm, about the Spanish moss, about the dancing lights as I rode my bike from Dasburg to Tigert pre-dawn this morning, and this campus looks glorious at 4:30, although today at 40 degrees, it didn't feel quite as great in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm still infatuated about every new research station I get to visit with Scott Engel. This place is still fresh and new to me. I've gotten to do hundreds and hundreds of tours and learning sessions so far in my 200 and change days on the campus, and yet I feel like I'm just getting started, getting to know the glorious diversity of a place this interesting. 2,200 acres contiguous right here. 86,000 souls show up here every day, and I feel at 7.5 months like I'm just beginning to open a Christmas morning package about all that's interesting. I had only spent a single evening of my life in Gainesville until 13 months ago when I was invited to come down and candidate for this position. And so much of this still feels like glorious serendipity. I wasn't looking for some university presidency in general. Instead, I was persuaded. I was pursued and moved by Maury and by Raul and by a handful of you other winsome, tireless believers in this particular place, telling me that this was not just a place, but a cause that I needed to join. So here's the deal. Here's why. Here's why I joined. In a nutshell, here's the vision. I believe, somewhat like Jason Kelly was saying, that the digital revolution is going to upend higher education in the next decade. I believe that most of higher education doesn't understand the pace of what's coming, and yet I also believe that a partially orderly transition that builds on, rather than jettisons, 800 years of legacy of helping young people transition from full-time dependency in your parents' households out into the independent living of adulthood through an educational institution is to be preferred over a more chaotic abandonment of this great 800-year-old institution. Not just the University of Florida, but the university over the course of nearly a millennia. And to our specific purposes today, I truly believe that there is no single institution in the nation better positioned to simultaneously question the old with humility and embrace the new with an entrepreneurial zest about partnering more and faster. I don't believe there's any institution better positioned than the University of Florida. Why? Why is this a unique time? The digital revolution through which we're living combines the migration in computing from mainframes to desktops to laptops to mobile handhelds, now to emerging wearables, and soon to implantables. It combines that, mobility, with the collapse of the cost of marginal computing, eventually toward free, or at least toward a cost and price so close to zero that it won't be worth us bothering to measure. This is free math for everything in life. Data nerd, yes, sir. This is probability for every field. It means that every single thing that can be reduced to a series of steps ultimately becomes free for everyone. It means that all things and all tasks that are intellectually routinizable can become cheap commodities. It means that many subfields of economics will move from evaluations of trade-offs in environments of scarcity to the psychological and anthropological and sociological and philosophical and theological riddles of navigating cornucopias of abundance, which is great, but also makes it a lot harder to discern meaning. It will mean robots building us robots. It means that the era of super tools is upon us. The implications of this new era for both the discovery and the teaching and learning enterprises are truly hard to overstate. The only analog that I can think of is the century that followed the Gutenberg Revolution, when a couple hundred copies of the Latin Vulgate Bible first rolled off the baby printing press in the 1450s. The world was literally remade. There was a revolution in printing, there were a couple hundred Bibles that were broadly available, and it isn't hyperbole to call Johannes Gutenberg the man of the last millennium as a result. Although his printing press revolution spawned actual revolutions, political and religious as well, for our purposes, perhaps the most important what came next chapter of the story was the deeper cleavage that cheap print produced and enabled between the concept of a library and the concept of a school, which used to be mostly the same thing. The democratization of information and then the broad dissemination of knowledge upended land and sea, creating whole new arts, whole new sciences, whole new economies, and whole new republics because of that printing press. I think that what comes next now, with the digital revolution still in its infancy, or its preteen adolescence at its most mature right now, is disruption at that kind of scale or bigger. As a historian, I'm well aware that one of our professional obligations is usually to be boring at parties. Yes, historians can give a great talk or tell a stem-winding tale when we're given the podium, but in casual conversation by the hors d'oeuvre table, usually we're supposed to say there's a lot more continuity than discontinuity in almost every era. The words unique and extraordinary and especially and atypical are probably an exaggeration. Usually we should be substituting words like common, typical, regular, and not unique. We should be substituting those terms all over the place, the historian usually says. And in truth, we self-on-the-throne narcissists usually do tend to think the moment in which we're living is extraordinary and atypical and special, primarily because we like to think of ourselves as extraordinary and special, and we're at this moment. And often, it's thus the historian's job to provide historical context, to do some bubble bursting, and to offer humility. But that's really not the moment we're at right now. We are blessed to be living at one of the most interesting moments in all of human history, on the cusp of lots and lots of fields and domains of life being made new. And so this should be an extraordinarily fascinating moment to be in the teaching and learning business, that is, to be in higher education. This shouldn't be daunting, this should be exciting. But somehow, there's a weird paradox. At this moment, which calls for maximal dynamism, too much of higher education wants to resist change. Too many institutions are complacent in their passive assumption that the values of the 10 or 15 most exclusive, maybe exclusionary, institutions of higher education are the model not just for 1950 or 1980, but still for 2050 and 2082. I don't think that's right. As a level set, there are fewer undergraduates in the Ivy League plus 5 or 6 Ivy-like institutions in the country, fewer undergraduates at those 14, 15 schools, then there will be butts in the seats in the swamp a couple hundred yards from here 45 hours from now. Truly, only 0.2% of the 31 million 18 to 24-year-olds in America are in the Ivy League right now, and yet we talk about those institutions and the exclusivity of those institutions as if it's the model for everything that's happening in higher ed. I mean, no disrespect to those institutions. Many of us got our degrees there. There are a lot of people laboring and studying in those places right now doing important things. But in the same way that in 1450, somebody seemed to be really unique by being able to be in one of the canonical classrooms where a professor could lecture from the Bible because no one else had the Bible. But by 1470 or 1490 or 1510, or surely by Halloween 1517 with Luther at Wittenberg, all of a sudden, a lot more people had access to a lot more information and a lot more knowledge. And all of a sudden, there were a lot more interesting places on earth than just a few dozen canonical exclusionary classrooms. So too, we are entering an era of radically more access to information, to compute, to knowledge, and to far more opportunities for schools to differentiate by creating more meaningful places, more conversations, more discovery, more coming of age, more formation. This place is different. This place is better positioned. You've been kicking butt, outperforming many of our former peer schools. You became elite and yet decided not to become elitist. Average SATs well north of 1,400, it's quite something. But no one here is mostly excited by the conversation of who we get to exclude. We're interested in who we can uplift. How do we serve more? How do we do more life change? This place has somehow been relatively insulated against complacency and self-satisfaction, and that's darn attractive. I believe that this is UF's moment to set a standard in higher education. We would like to be a model for the 21st century land-grant university. And that kind of major undertaking can't be done by an individual. It can only be done by a community, by a culture that's built, by a partnership of students and staff, faculty, and Floridians more broadly. You've been accomplishing big things, and I believe that we can build and ramp off of the noteworthy legacy of 170 years, but especially a last dozen or so. I believe we can transform the student experience to deliver even more value, to increase social mobility in the state, and to equip Gators to solve tomorrow's biggest problems. We can strive toward, as the chairman said, more radical practicality. We can be more excellent in research. We can do more translation of that research, because not just Florida, but the world needs the University of Florida's biggest brains to be tackling our biggest challenges and riddles. It is indeed an audacious vision, and it takes a partnership of the resolved and the committed. And to that end, let me offer a speed round of some of the pledges I want to make to this room, to this faculty, to this board, and to the broader community. And in keeping with Melicia's admonition, these are just appetizers, just down payments on longer conversations over the coming months and semesters and years. I offer not a whole meal here, but just something to get us started. So, a lightning few. First, we will make our practical majors even more practical for those who are looking for practical majors. Second, we will also, though, refine and innovate our core curriculum to ensure that all students wrestle with big questions and big, enduring ideas. We want to expose them to content that is important and durable. A lowest common denominator core doesn't work very well. For those headed into STEM, need to know a lot more and better humanities than most schools provide them with. And kids who arrived here last August or will come next August, not yet understanding the quantitative revolution through which we're living, they need to be directly introduced to that revolution. We need more quality and more quantity in the curriculum for everybody, and that probably requires 2 differentiated cores. We will vigorously defend tenure, rightly understood, as a critical tool for a university of this caliber for those fields where longer-term employment agreements make the most sense. And yet we will also refine and better define how majority teaching tracks, as one of many pathways for a diverse faculty, can also be a high and noble and rewarding calling. We will better compensate, and probably more importantly, better support the best research team leaders. Critically, we will learn to hire faster. We have been given direct hiring authority, and we plan to use it. We want to be able to make competitive offers and shrink the process of hiring from an academic year or a semester at fastest. We want to shrink that process to months and then weeks. We want to go out and identify the world's greatest minds and invite them to come and join us in common cause with offers they can't refuse. We want to buy their laboratories, hire their teams, and bring them to Florida before the competition knows what hit them. We will become fast. We commit ourselves, legislators and other electeds and the BOG, to radical transparency. We are blessed to be both the flagship and the land-grant university of this great state, alongside FAMU, and we take that twin responsibility seriously. To whom much is given, much is required, and we will tell the Floridians who pay our bills exactly what we spend the money on. We will tell our story, we will make it clear how research works, why research should sometimes fail in a portfolio strategy, but we want folks to know what we fund and how it will benefit the state. We will become more transparent in what we measure, and we will be accountable in how we work. We will pioneer new models of personalized educational delivery. We won't be able to do this fast enough on our own. We won't be able to stovepipe everything interesting that should happen in the next 6 and 12 months, not the next 6 and 12 years. And so we will partner far and wide, and therefore we will become faster culturally. We will promote internships, and we will promote more study abroad experiences for Gators. And perhaps most importantly, we will work hard to live out the reality that souls cannot be compelled, only awakened and nurtured, enlightened and persuaded. We will be intellectually curious. We will challenge orthodoxy and embrace open inquiry. We will pull apart the best arguments with the best questions, and then we'll build them back up, and then we'll start over again. We will question truth claims with epistemologies of humility. We believe that when people engage ideas critically and in good faith, we can actually increase not just understanding, but empathy. We will reject every effort to deny agency to individuals. We don't believe there's anything interesting about compulsion. We reject zealotry that preaches de facto intolerance. We reject determinisms that reduce humans to mere objects. We engage a wide range of opinions. We will challenge assumptions and refine arguments. We believe that free inquiry, viewpoint diversity, and good faith disagreement are indispensable to world-class research and world-class education. This university must be a place for big-hearted disagreement and open dialogue, because this will be our North Star. At the University of Florida, our work begins with the recognition of universal human dignity. As a nation, we need to do better. At Florida, we will seek to model some of this. The imperialism of mental health categories as superior to all moral categories has very likely led to a net social worsening of mental health. We can do better. We aspire here to promote resiliency and strength in our students. We want students who are tough enough and smart enough and compassionate enough to engage ideas they didn't already hold. We know that they're going to enter a world where they'll have to encounter people that don't already agree with them. We should start learning how to do it together as a community while they're here. We do not deny agency to any members of the community by reducing them to some of their superficial characteristics. People are not widgets, and a university isn't a machine that builds components. This is a garden that cultivates ideas and souls to grow toward the sun. The University of Florida exists to educate. Education is a higher calling than power politics or ideological zealotry, both of which are predictable and predictably boring. This is not a seminary, as important as seminaries can be. We are not in the business of catechizing, as important as catechisms can be. A university is not in the business of advancing either a theology of the right or a theology of the left. A university is not in the business of saving or damning souls. We're in the business of teaching people to be more curious, to ask better questions, and to solve more problems for their neighbors. We will do the hard work of learning, which requires honesty, self-reflection, self-criticism, and together, therefore, we can pursue excellence. At the end of the day, this is a community I have discovered of gritty pragmatists who want to build, create, discover, solve, and serve. We do this for each other, for our system, and our state. We've talked a lot about what is new in this, but I think it's also critically important in a room like this, under a century-old tower, and with so many folks who've served so many decades, it's also a great opportunity to recognize that so much of what is new in our mission is not new. And so over the course of the last month, I went back, 12 people have had this calling before me, and I went back and was able to read 10 of the inauguration addresses that preceded today. And in it, I found echoes in our community of many, many important aspects of what it means to steward just for a time, but recognize the echoes before and the descendants that will come after know that we together need to pass it forward. And so I want to give you just a couple of insights over the course of the last century plus from those 10 prior inaugurals. Nearly a century ago, President Andrew Sled reminded us that students should understand the work will never be easy. Quote, an education is, and is of right, a costly thing, and it ought to be so, not chiefly in funds, but in time, in toil, in determined, persevering, long-continued effort. Then jumping forward to the dawn of the information age, President Wayne Reitz implored us to embrace the complexity of education. He asked, do we need to sacrifice liberal education in the interests of professional or the technical alone? I believe not. Our ever-expanding technology and the increasing complexity of our society bring forth for us demands not just for greater numbers of timely information on our daily problems, but we also need to learn to emphasize the aesthetic and the humanistic next to the practical and the technical. Then, speaking on the eve of the digital revolution, President Kaiser asks us to think of our mission, and in particular, what do students need in a disrupted age? And he said in his inaugural, our charge should be this: we should not be preparing our graduates for their first employment, but for their last, for their many callings. Bernie, who has given me good wisdom, he spoke consistently about the path of discovery being something that is not abstract, but real world, neighbor-loving. He said, if you remember nothing else from me today, I want you to know this. When the University of Florida talks about discovery, what we're talking about is solving problems, the troubling problems. When the University of Florida talks about discovery, we're talking about people. We're talking about making a difference for the people of this state. And Kent, who has been incredibly kind to me, it was a surprise when I was courted for this. And so there were a number of moments over the course of 60 days or so when it seemed like a pretty random conversation to be having. And Kent was someone in whom I could confide and from whom I received perennial wisdom in our short relationship. He is a guy who spoke so compellingly about the land-grant mission that he said we need to learn to embrace a comprehensive land-grant mission. This is not just about agriculture, it is about all 67 counties in the state of Florida where the University of Florida wants to serve. That's what it means to be a modern land-grant institution. As I was biking from Dasburg over to Tigert this morning, it was cold, but I was reflecting on this day, and I got into the office and no one was there yet. And of course, my text went off, and it was my boss. And I looked down at my phone, and Maury, besides calling it game day, gave me these 3 great insights. He said, the abundance of opportunities at this place and in this state are breathtaking. The headaches are going to be plentiful. And the opportunity to be a part of a team that pursues life change on behalf of the students already here and the students yet to come, it is priceless. And even though it was only a text, I could hear that Iranian immigrant accent lingering on the word priceless. The headaches will be plentiful. The opportunities are abundant. And the opportunity to do this together is indeed priceless. Archimedes, the ancient mathematician, famously said that with the right lever, with the right fulcrum, he could move the world. Well, the 22 million citizens of this gorgeous state have, in this institution, the right lever, the right tool, so that we together, the University of Florida, can move the world. We believe that our north of 500,000 alums of Gator Nation are already changing the world, and going forward, this place can promote even more human flourishing, even more innovation to the benefit of our neighbors. And to you all, I would just like to say a sincere thank you for the opportunity to be teamed with you. It is my honor and privilege. Go Gators. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Please join me now in welcoming to the podium Pastor Thorpe to pray and conclude our ceremony.
May we pray. This day we pray thy blessings upon this union of this president and this university. We ask that you ever provide wisdom, knowledge, understanding, steadfastness, courage to Benjamin Eric Sass. As you answered the prayers of Solomon, we pray that you so answer the prayers of Benjamin Sass. As you supply him with all the necessary tools to complete the assignment that is now his, may you also grant what his humility prevents him from asking. May he enjoy this role, be spiritually enriched by this role, and find fulfillment in this role. Cover Mrs. Melissa Sass. Continue to crown her with a wise and understanding heart. Send thy blessings upon their children, Corey, Alex, and Breck. May their hearts never run into folly or fall prey to an unbridled appetite. We covet now your blessing upon the University of Florida, faculty, staff, students, their homes, families, and countries they represent. Cause them to become beacons of light in a world where selfishness often evaporates the milk of human kindness. Increase our strength for every journey, stability in every trial, and most of all, civility in every raging storm. Our sovereign Lord and King, we thank you now for what our eyes have seen, what our ears have heard, and what our hearts have felt. Thank you for the visitation of your Holy Spirit, who has moved upon the altars of our hearts. As we prepare to depart from this place, go before us as a mighty leading lamb. Follow along behind us as a guiding and protecting angel. Hold us in the hollow of thine hand. We look to you now for the benediction, as recorded in the sacred writ of Jude's single chapter and its 24th and 25th verses. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. Amen. Please welcome Provost Scott Angle to conclude our ceremony.
Thank you, Pastor Thorpe, and congratulations, Ben. We give you our full support as you lead the university into an even brighter future. And to the faculty, staff, and students in here, hang on. We will conclude with the singing of our alma mater. After the singing of the alma mater, we will have a recessional of the platform party, the SAS family members, the academic delegates, accompanied by playing of the organ by UF senior Gavin McVeigh. Please remain standing until all members of the recessional have exited the auditorium. We welcome you to join us for the inauguration reception on the lawn of the university auditorium. The words of the alma mater are printed on the backs of your programs. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join in the singing of the alma mater led by Professor Offerly.
Florida.